like, so when I started out, I wanted things to be perfect. Like, I was very much thinking, well, this is my brand. I want it really well represented it and everything be the best. And I invested a lot of money and time, and it probably held me back some point because I was thinking, yeah, so there was that whole thing around perfectionism and sort of
Mm.
just make a start. And I do think it holds a lot of people back today. They're thinking, oh, I got to wait till it's this good and then I'll release it. And it never gets released because it's never good enough. And so I think version one is far better than you waiting for the perfect version.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Founder. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. You ever need help with yours? Just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we are always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Anthony Hartcher. And Anthony started his founding journey at the time was working as a chemical engineer and did a few different corporate roles for other businesses. Wasn't fulfilled within those corporate roles, and so decided to reconnect with his interest in well-being and went back to school and caught a couple certifications. And then got into health coaching and then shifted a bit into being a nutritionalist before finally evolving into focusing on mind and body wellness and also writing a book on those insights. So, with that much as a introduction, welcome onto the podcast, Anthony.
Thank you, Devin, and hello, listeners.
Well, thank you for coming on and excited to have you. So, yeah, before we dive in, or I guess to dive in, so I gave kind of the quick overview to a bit longer journey. And so, kind of this is focused really on that founding journey, but kind of tell us just a little bit before you got into the current business. As I mentioned, you were kind of doing a chemic or doing being a chemical engineer and working in a few different corporate roles before kind of deciding to shift gears or go in a bit of a different direction. So tell us a little bit about how that got started or how that transitioned for you.
Yeah, ultimately, it was a journey searching for meaning and purpose. I was doing pretty well in the corporate world, earning good money and going up the ranks. However, felt that feeling that something's missing. I feel not totally fulfilled, and although I didn't mind waking up and going to work, I was enjoying it to a point. But then I thought, nah, it's not something I want to do forever. And I
Mm.
thought, what do I want to do? And it was really, deep reflection and thinking back as to what really excited me as a kid. And it was digging into health and wellness. And I thought, yeah, I really want to reconnect with health and wellness. And I was thinking, what would be great is helping others with their health and wellness. I really enjoy studying it and researching it and applying it. And I was thinking I'd also love to take others on the journey with me. And so that was very much the moment that, then set me on the course to go and restudy or, go and do another two more degrees. And then I was thinking,
Now, just before we dive into that, and we'll definitely will. But you mentioned so you're in the corporate roles, and maybe not quite as fulfilled or that. Is there anything specific? Was it, hey, woke up one day and said, hey, yes, I can do this job and make good money. I just hate it, or it doesn't even have to be hate it, but just not really enjoying it, or was it more of just a gradual evolution of, hey, I'm kind of worn out, or don't have the excitement anymore? Kind of, how did you kind of arrive at that decision or that evolution of, hey, I want to change directions or I want to go or a different way?
yes, I think it was a bit of, you could say, that midlife crisis, that sort of 40s, when we hit our 40s and we've been doing corporate for a while. And, I was very excited when I first started, and I was pretty much for the whole journey. I don't certainly regret it at all. It was something that was good for me at the time, and it enabled me to in parallel explore what I really wanted to do. And I spent a good 15 years exploring that and discovering what I really wanted to do. And in terms of a light bulb moment, it was pretty much family and, well, getting married and then about to have children. And that sort of made me think about my career direction. I was thinking, at the end of my life, do I want to be a great corporate person, having climbed the ranks and achieved some title, or do I really want to have a life that I've done something that's more fulfilling, that's more meaningful? And that's really, the decision I came to was, lying on that deathbed thinking, is this the life I really want to finish with, or do I want to make a changing course now?
Hmm. So you come to that resolution, makes sense. Sounds like you reset a bit of that decision point, and you said, okay, thought about what you wanted to do, and help or reconnecting a bit to what you like or enjoyed earlier in life, which is kind of health and wellness and fitness and those type of things. Now, how did you kind of take from identifying that's kind of where you wanted to shift to all the way to here's a business that I'm going to jump into or what I'm going to pursue? How did you kind of connect those dots?
Well, that was another 8 year journey. So I wasn't quick to discover that. I knew it was health related, and I actually started studying a degree in naturopathic medicine. And I got probably three-quarters of the way through that degree and then had second thoughts and then thought, oh, I don't know if this is what I really want to go out and do. And so then I switched to nutrition and I actually finished the nutrition degree and then I did a degree in parallel, which was a complementary medicine. So, and even then, once I finished those two degrees, I was a practicing nutritionist and I was thinking, yeah, food's one part of the equation, but there's so much more to health, knowing, my journey. And I thought, oh, I can't just focus on food. And so I then started focusing on more a holistic approach to helping someone. And then that became problematic because, as you've probably realized with business, everyone's looking, well, clients, our potential clients are looking for someone who's a specialist in the field that they're needing help in. Like for you, it's, IP law. You don't just do law in general, you do IP law. And so you're a specialist there, and people think, that's it, I'm going to go to Devon because he's a specialist. And so for me saying, yeah, I'm a holistic health practitioner, people are thinking, yeah, but I want someone who specializes in reproductive health. And so, again, that didn't really serve me well. I mean, as much as I liked saying that's the way I practice, I needed to find this niche, this specialty. And so that's been a journey in itself. And I must say, that's taken me 8 years to really find the specialty. And, for me now, I call myself the joyful journey mentor. So it's helping people discover more joy and happiness in their lives. And I do that in a holistic way. But at least I'm very specific as to who I'm looking for is someone that's unfulfilled and wanting more from life and wanting someone to help them to discover what joy and happiness is for them. And so that's pretty much what I do now and the specialty that I'm coming to, but it's taken me a journey to get there.
So let's unpack that a bit more. So maybe one or question to that. So you went and got a couple of degrees, or you started with the one degree and then switched over. Now, was that what were you doing it as a full-time student? Were you working full-time? Were you what was that balance between were you continuing a career? Or did you say, hey, hit the, in your words, midlife crisis, want to go in a different direction and, kind of just put a pause on what you were doing. Walk us through kind of, or how you made that shift over.
Yeah, I was very much studying full time and working full time. And that was really difficult. It was a full on load. At the same time, I'm having a young family. I've got a newborn and my wife's pregnant again. And here's me studying full time, working full time. And so that was really, I guess, a stressful period of my life, in terms of commitments or probably overcommitting. I'm glad I had sort of a bit of youth on my side to help me through that. But yeah, so I was actually doing it in parallel and I was still working full time in corporate at the same time studying and trying to juggle the two.
Hmm. So you do or studying full time, which I definitely get, and working full time. Now, was there a point during that? period where he said, okay, I've now, maybe it's after graduation or I've got the degree, or kind of how did you shift from the corporate world over to really focusing on the new career path? Was that a, hey, I'm going to do, get the practice up and going on the health and wellness while doing the corporate job, or hey, once I got the degree, now I'm going to make that full-time focus, or I'm going to start my own practice, or work under someone else, or get some mentorship, or kind of how did you, as you now come out with the degree, start down that path of building a practice or business around it?
The stars really aligned for me. And it was sort of like whilst I was studying full time, working full time, I was thinking of how I'm going to do this transition. And what I put out there was that I would love to be made redundant and, in essence, get a payout, which would then help me transition into my business. And that's what unfolded. And it actually unfolded in perfect timing because I finished my first degree and was made redundant at the same time. And so that was I guess what that's what I wanted and I got. And so it was somewhat I'd planned it, but obviously I think the universe, you know, I guess rewarded me for following my heart and following my path and being, yeah, I guess living a life aligned to purpose, and things just really unfolded the way I wanted them to, happen.
No, makes perfect sense. So you said, okay, make yourself redundant. That kind of plays out to your favor. Now, about how long ago was that where you said, okay, maybe now I'm redundant. I can focus on this full time and really going about building the practice. Kind of how long or over what period of time you've been doing this now?
Yeah, so 2016 was when I was made redundant and I started full time in my business. And yeah, it's been 8 years since that redundancy. And I must say, I've learnt a lot about business. I learned a lot about myself and made, plenty of mistakes in terms of, how I started out. And yeah, so it's been a certainly challenge. At some periods, there's been a struggle. And it's really now after 8 years that I feel very congruent as to this is what I'm doing and this is how I want to do it and these are the clients I serve. It's very clear now, but I must say those first 8 years it was, yeah, I want to be in health and wellness. I want to help people, but the clarity wasn't there, and I really was searching for that clarity, and now the clarity's just dawned upon me. So it's been a long journey to get there.
So now walk us, and you touched on it a bit, but walk through. So what was that? Where did you kind of start? So you dive into this now full time 8 years ago, said, okay, I'm going to make a go of it. So where, it sounds like an evolution, but where did you start out at, or what was that first initial entrance into health, and where did you kind of focus on?
Yeah, it was health coaching. So I went out as a health coach, and what I discovered, and people were asking me, I'm not quite clear what a health coach does. How do they help me? And there was no, it was very generalized, and so that over, I did that for at least 2 years, health coaching, and I found I didn't really attract much business, many clients, so it was a real struggle. Certainly chewed through that redundancy very quickly. So it really didn't cover me for very long. And then it was, yeah, I need to be more specific. But at the same time, I was still studying full time. So then I completed my Bachelor of Nutrition. So then I thought, okay, I've completed it now. I've got the certification. Now I'm going to call myself a clinical nutritionist, not a health coach. And that, I've pretty much called myself a clinical nutritionist up until 2024. So that's been 2019, yeah, about 5 years. So first 2 years, 2 to 3 years, health coach, and the other 4 to 5 years has been a clinical nutritionist. But I was a clinical nutritionist, again, a generalist. And I still struggled to find clients as a result of being a generalist and not having that specialty. So now I've really found what resonates. I'm a slow learner, I must say. But once I discover I'm all in. So, and it really feels aligned now to be working in the mental health space and to be helping people with their mental health.
Now, so you started out kind of as a generalist, health and wellness, doing that as coaching, nutritionalist. Now, was that, or how did you, before we got to where you're now at today, but what pushed you in the nutritionalist direction? Was that more of client feedback? Was it kind of where you thought you could add the most value, where there was a niche in the market? Or in other words, kind of what initially pushed you to go in the nutritionalist route?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I was at the time studying naturopathy, and when I was telling people I'm studying naturopathy, they'd go, "What the hell is that?" And I'm thinking, wow, so I'm doing a degree that everyone's asking, "What the hell is that?" And I'm thinking, it's not well known, and it may be a bit more well known today. And then I was
Hmm.
thinking, I don't know if this is the right thing to be qualified as a naturopath if people sort of struggle to get their head around as to what the hell a naturopath is, let alone what they do.
Hmm.
And so I thought clinical nutritionist is a bit more clearer. Okay, you specialize in food, you help me with my food, and I thought that it's a bit more clear cut, and so that really shaped my decision to switch from naturopathy to nutrition. But then I realized once I was out practicing as a nutritionist, again, it's too generalized. You help me with food, but what specific problem do you solve? And I was very much playing in that weight loss space to begin with, and I probably attracted a lot of people that wanted assistance with weight loss. And that sort of evolved into, I then thought, yeah, it's like food's one part of the equation, but there's a whole lot more that they need help with. And I need to, like, so for example, if someone's not sleeping, then of course the next day they're just run by their brain craving energy, and so that lack of or the sleep deprivation is driving this huge amount of hunger and need for food. And I was thinking, well, if I'm not addressing the sleep, then no matter what I say they should eat, they're not going to eat it because they've just got this insane, intense hunger. And they go, and so I thought, yeah, and so this is where I really started looking at studying human behavior is why do people do what they do? Like, so as much as I can share this textbook approach to food and what would be great for them to eat, they don't do it. They don't apply it. And it's because stress was in their lives, or it was because they were sleep deprived, or it was a combination of both, or it was an emotional time for them, or they had some past childhood trauma, and all these sort of things were really dictating their behavior. And I was thinking, I need to better understand human behavior in order to better serve them. And so I went and did further qualifications to address human behavior. So it's been an evolution, as you keep telling me, and that's really where I am today, is just this constant involvement, constant looking at how can I solve that problem. Every client's taught me something. They've come to me with a new problem that I thought I really struggled with helping that person with that problem. I'm going to then get into the research, better understand that issue and how I could work with them to solve that problem. And so this has been a constant journey and constant evolution, and the business has just evolved with my personal journey.
No, that makes sense. And so now that kind of brings us more up to where you're at today, where you're focusing on that kind of that, like not holistic, as you said, but the health and wellness from the psychological perspective of it not just being, hey, eat less food or eat more food or eat healthy food, but also how do you impact, sleep and exercise and, whether or not you're enjoying life, doing well at work, having a good marriage, all of those things that go into that psychological portion of it that can cause you to want to eat more or crave more or eat unhealthy or eat healthy and vice versa. So you said you just made that shift at the beginning of 2024. So more recently, is that right?
Yeah, so 2022, I started studying human behavior, and the last 2 years I've been digging deep into that and applying what I'm learning about why people do what they do and how you can help them. And so that's been the last 2 years of my learning journey. And now what I'm doing is everything I've learned in health and wellness, applying it to help someone find more joy and happiness in their lives. And so because what I was thinking that most of the clients I'm attracting are those that are struggling with anxiety, depression, suicidal ideology. But the problem with that was if I put an advertisement out there saying, "Are you suffering from anxiety, depression, or have suicidal ideology?" No one really wants to put their hand up. They're thinking, "Oh, I might be, but I don't want to. I really don't want to." Let it, I sort of, that's personal to me. But when I thought, well, what's the opposite they're seeking? And it's obviously more fulfillment and more joy and more happiness in their lives. And so I thought my angle is going to be what they want as opposed to what their problem is, and really focus on the problem, but really focus on what they want, and hopefully attract. Well, I'm still going to attract those clients that are struggling with their mental health, and so I
Hmm.
finally found that angle, but initially that was difficult.
So now you find that angle, you make that kind of shift once again and kind of go in that direction. Now, as you kind of, sounds like, iteratively shifted in directions to find your focus, both for areas where you enjoy, where you can add the value, as well as where it's, kind of clear to your potential client or customer, what you're offering and why they would need you. So now as you've made that, kind of third shift or third or evolution, how's that gone? Has it been one that is better understood, more or better resonating with your customers and clients, or still too early to tell, or still ongoing evolution and maybe it will always be evolving, or kind of how's that gone as you've now kind of shifted to that focus?
Yeah, like I started in 2024. I set myself a goal. I'm going to find my specialty. And so I played with it a lot in 2024. At the end of 2024, it finally just, the light bulb moment that, it came to me as to, oh, this is it. And I've felt so energized since that, the initial, sense that this is what it is. And so I've really just started, like, it's been 1 or 2 months into this. Okay, this is how I'm going to approach the market. This is the angle. This is who I am. This is what I do. And so I'm really applying all the learnings over the last 8 years and probably the rest of, my life in essence, the whole 40 years. And it's really coming together nicely. It's got good momentum. I'm getting great results with clients, but it hasn't exploded yet because I'm really just starting again. So, but to complete out what you asked me, it is a constant evolution. So I really don't think it's going to stop here. It's my knowledge is constantly growing with my learning, and as my knowledge grows, I've got more to share. I've got more insights, and as you know, the science is evolving all the time as well, and that changes the way I practice because there's things that I used to preach that I no longer believe in because the science doesn't support that. And so if I said, look, I found it and this is it, and this is the way I'm going to practice for the rest of my life, then I wouldn't be serving the clients to the best of my ability. I want to be up to date with the science and always evolving with the science and making sure that what the client is getting is scientifically backed. And the only way I can do that is through constant learning and constant evolution. Otherwise, I'm teaching something 10 years ago that's outdated and it's not going to work. So to answer your question, absolutely, you're spot on. It's going to be a constant evolution.
No, makes perfect sense, and that's where a lot of times, especially in the field where you're helping people as, whether it's science studies, where, the health information, what, public, mood and what is popular. It wouldn't be, I wouldn't say like a fad, but there are things that
Yeah.
people tend to focus on and then they'll shift their focus or maybe they'll shift their interest. And so you kind of have to go where the people are at as far as what would be most helpful to them at that time. And so definitely makes sense. And that's kind of that ongoing evolution to address the needs of people at the time and where they're at and what makes sense there. Well, now as we've kind of reached, really gone through the present or the founding journey up to, what that evolution has brought today, and I'm sure it will be an ongoing evolution. So we'll have to maybe have you back on for another one of the podcast and the series of podcasts. And as a quick reminder to the audience, so we've had a couple other podcasts that you've been on. So definitely encourage people to go out, check Anthony's, inventive journey episode, inventive expert. as well as as you're listening to this one, the Inventive Founder. But now, as we have kind of reached towards the end of the episode, always love to wrap up each episode with the same question. So we're gonna to jump to that now. So really within that, the question I like to ask is, there's always those, it always feels like a lot of times with the startup or small business, you're always in the early days. I don't know when, and I guess, and when you retire, you don't feel like you're in early days, but early days of the business, if you could go back and kind of say, hey, here's a decision I would make differently, or here's something I would probably do differently than what I maybe did, kind of what would that decision be, or what would you go back and do differently?
I so when I started out, I wanted things to be perfect. Like I was very much thinking, well, this is my brand. I want it really well represented it and everything be the best. And I invested a lot of money and time, and it probably held me back some point because I was thinking, yeah, so there was that whole thing around perfectionism and sort of
Mm.
just make a start. And I do think it holds a lot of people back today. They're thinking, oh, I got to wait till it's this good and then I'll release it. And it never gets released because it's never good enough. And so I think version one is far better than you waiting for the perfect version. And so now I just roll things out as version one. Like I've got a website that's up and running. It still needs improvement, but that's with any website, with anything you do, you can constantly improve it. And so I guess the perfectionism is something that you strive for to constantly make sure that you're updating and improving things and doing those one percenters, but you never arrive there. You never actually, like, you think about someone that's built a website 10 years ago, that website would look terrible today with the technology we have. And so you absolutely have to be constantly reinvesting in the business, constantly reinvesting in your craft and updating and upskilling because otherwise, you look outdated, and that's the evolution of business. So for me, it's just making a start and not waiting for the perfect moment.
No, and I think that is it's a decision that's easy to look back and you kind of just hit on with the example, whether it's a website or other things, you can be forever striving to have that as be perfect. In other words, I have it just how I want it, and then just to your point, you'll probably get to where even if you reach that, what I would say is probably not attainable in the sense that you're probably never going to get there. But even if you were to reach that, it's not going to hold true very long. You're going to be right back into here's the next thing I need to make better or improve on, or otherwise, adjust. And then you're just going to be right back to working on it. So I think that, getting that a decent, good, working, platform, system, whatever it might be, product, service, those things is important. But having it as, hey, this may not be perfect, but let's go out, let's launch it, and then let's improve on it as we go is kind of a decision that, looking back is one where it's hard to know exactly when you feel it's good enough, but it's one where it's a great area to learn from. Well, now as we do wrap up towards the end of the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Go to my new website, joyfulmate.com.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, expand their network, or support a great business. If nothing else, make a new best friend. So, with that, thank you again, Anthony, for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you that are listeners are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, feel free to go to inventiveunicorn.com, apply to be on the show. Couple more things as listeners, make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review, helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey to success. And on that note, if along your journey you ever need help with patents or trademarks or anything else with your startup or your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Anthony, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you, Devin, and thank you, listeners.